Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. My guest today is Julia Keys. She's got an extensive background in nursing, counseling, and psychotherapy. Her specialist subjects are relationships, mental health issues, and eating disorders. She was a school counselor for 5 years, helping 11 to 18-year-old girls, many of which had problems relating to their parents' relationship issues, and she's skilled in safeguarding children and vulnerable adults. She's worked as a specialist at a women's center where referrals came from all walks of life. She's lived most of her married life to television presenter Richard Keys in the public eye and has dealt with many personal crises in the gaze of the newspapers and media. She knows all too well how hard it can be to present yourself externally to the world while struggling immensely internally. And she also knows how frightening and lonely it can feel when you've been betrayed. So coming to us from the UK is Julia Keys. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Gayle. Great to be on the show.
Thank you. And listeners, you may hear a lot of banging. We don't know whether you will or you won't, but I'm broadcasting from my home, and they are redoing the outside of my building as we speak. So if you hear hammer, 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 it's because we are living in the real, right now world. So I guess I would like to ask you, Julia, you wrote this book called The MANscript. Which is fascinating. The title itself is fascinating.
Yes.
How did you come to write this book? I know you've got a co-author with this. So
Yes.
Tell us how all this came to be.
Okay, well, my co-author, Jackie Coles, both of us were nurses. We knew each other from the age of 16 when we both worked in a record shop. And we followed each other's career. We went hand in hand almost. And then we lost touch. And ironically, we found each other again when I had my daughter back in 1985, and Jackie was a midwife. So since then, we kept in touch with each other, and she's been working within our UK NHS for many, many years, which they're doing an amazing job for us right now with the coronavirus and everything. And I went into the mental health side. So we started chatting about 2016 early on, and we both realized that herself actually had actually been betrayed many, many times, and yet she had chosen to stay with her partner. And my sessions with my clients over that 20 years, one of the most common things that I came across in a relationship crisis when somebody was betrayed. So together we felt that there just wasn't something out there to help people, for giving them a heads up as to say, look, if you're suspicious or you notice something or you have that gut feeling or things have changed or something brings to you sort of an alarm reaction about your partner, then don't ignore it. And this is how we started to write the book.
Wow. What do you think a man has to do if he wants to make it right? That's a big question.
It's a big question, Dr. Gayle, and a hard one, actually, I think, for a lot of men to understand. And we're just talking, I know, about, men and women right now. And of course, betrayal covers all, gender relationships. But as far as the man is concerned, once they have been caught, literally, and that can after a long time, they can go through various scenarios whereby the partner becomes almost a brilliant detective. They're on to them, they can't let it go, they've got to find out the truth, and yet all the time they're being told it's in their head, they're going mad, all these things that make them feel they can't trust themselves and literally that they are losing it. And eventually they find out the truth and he's been having an affair. And there are two choices at that point. Either together they can choose to put it right, or it's the end of the relationship and one or the other decides to do that. If they try to work it out, then what the man has to do, first and foremost, is 100% get rid of the affair partner from that moment on. And you'd think that would be so obvious, Dr. Gayle, but actually, you'd be amazed at how many men find that so difficult to do.
I don't find that amazing because I would think if they're in this relationship to begin with, they're in it because they feel something for the other party, and if they've enjoyed that relationship, they're certainly not in a position where they want to let it go. So to me, it's a choice. I mean, they have to make that choice. They're either going to separate and get a divorce from the woman they're married to, or they're going to they're going to go ahead and stay with the person that they're having the affair with. But, to me, I can see where it's a difficult choice, but it is a choice and it is one that has to be made. So what kind of impact on family life and health does all of this have on the children and everyone else that's concerned with the family?
Okay, well, if children are involved, one of the things we'd highly recommend is that between you, the parents are very, very careful not to bring the children into it. And I've seen it so many times, I'm sure you have too, and maybe your listeners out there have experienced it, whereby it's so hard to keep those children away from the situation and the scenario that's developed. The emotions are running high. The whole situation is very, very volatile. Now, if the two people, the relationship is going to survive and they're going to work through this, then, as you said before, there's got to be certain guidelines. And you're right, there is a choice to be made here all round, and it isn't easy. And to have feelings for somebody else is really hard because you develop those feelings over a period of time, and it's hard to let go. And, we know that an affair situation is like a little bit of a fantasy, really. It's without the reality. And sometimes when there's the family unit, one or the other, as is normality, can feel under pressure. And there is that maybe lack of freedom. And what happens with an affair, it ignites that. It ignites that sense of total freedom to do whatever you feel without maybe the constraints of the family unit. So when it comes down to thinking about the children, you've really got to think about their emotional stability. And so therefore, my recommendation to the parents is that if you're going to stay together, that you do not play this out in front of your children. However, I would say that their age comes into this. If you've got very young children, do not do this in front of them. If you've got older children and they know something's happening, then it's up to you to decide what you think you can discuss with your children, but all the time reassuring them that mummy and daddy are going to be okay. And that's a hard one because mummy and daddy don't even know if they're going to be okay and can say that.
Well, what happens though, I would think, knowing how I am, if let's say that the man says, okay, I'm not going to be with my lover anymore and I want to get back together, but the woman says, you're out of here. What happens then? Because that would be what I would do. I would say goodbye,
yes,
and move on. So what do you do in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, that is really, really hard, isn't it? From the child's perspective, because they just want their parents to be together. And so
And they very often blame themselves for the
yes,
divorce.
yes, they do, because they don't understand why one parent would leave or one parent would be told to go. Because in their minds, they think, well, regardless of the situation that they can't fully understand, of course they can't, they see that any parent that leaves them, if they love them, they wouldn't do that. And this is where, childhood beliefs start that obviously ricochet right into adulthood. Being left is a huge problem.
Well, I would say that I'd like to get your opinion on some top tips that you would suggest for thriving after an affair.
Yes. First and foremost, you have to believe and tell yourself every single day that you matter, because the situation itself makes you feel as if you don't and you haven't. So you've got to take responsibility for your feelings and your actions now from this point on. And when you decide to do that, that will give you back your control, because that's what you need to feel. You need to feel empowered now and to feel strength from within to say, right, this is my life. I matter. I have my needs. I need to do this for me and my family. This person is not good for me. He's totally disrespected me. He's not taken into account any of my feelings. And he's either walked away from the family or he's created a situation whereby it's too difficult for him to remain in that family. But the first and foremost, you have to make yourself and believe that you matter. It has to come from you within. With regards to friends, I'd be very careful who you decide to have as your support network, because you do need a support line somewhere. But there are friends and there are friends. And there are those that are very ready to give their opinion. And it is opinion and it can be very judgmental. And there are others who just have your best interests at heart and will just be by your side. So you need, sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I have known couples where once there's a divorce, and I don't know, I think this happens mostly with women because men don't really care if they're invited or not, but they're not included in the social activities anymore because they're like one of or that kind of thing. But again, I think that depends on the friends that you cultivate, because when my husband passed away 12 years ago and I became the one person, I was always included in everything. And I still to this day go to dinner with couples and they're the couple and I'm the single. And I pay my own way. I don't expect them to pay, and I pay my own way, but they're my friends and we still go out together. So I think a lot is up to how the woman orchestrates. I'm going to use that word, orchestrates this entire thing, and whether or not she feels whether she's alone or she's supported, or are these her friends or his friends, but most of the time they're her friends because she's the one that's the social person as opposed to him. But how do you suggest that a woman finds trust again? I mean, supposing she does get together with her husband and he does get rid of his paramour, so to speak, how does she know that she can trust him from that point forward?
Yeah, I think that is the most difficult part of staying in a relationship and trying to build that. Well, the man has a huge responsibility in this, because he's got to allow his partner to check his phone if that's what she needs to do. She's going to do all these sorts of things that might drive him mad, but I'm afraid it comes with the territory. Or, and I know that some people do the complete opposite, and they manage to draw a line and say, right, from this moment on, it's a clear slate and on we go. You've got to be a very strong person to do that. But in terms of trust, if you think about the scenario you've just lived and the lack of trust that it is actually evoked, not just within your partner, but with also the trust within yourself, particularly if you have been repeatedly told it's all in your mind. And this is one of the reasons we wrote the MANscript, because it is a script that they deliver. And there are such commonalities in those scripts. And you hear it over and over again, and when they're found out, it's your fault because you weren't there for them and too much time with the children. And yet, all through this, you've got that feeling that something is not right. And when someone is telling you you're wrong, you start to question yourself. So the first thing to do is that you realize that all along you were right. So the feelings that you had, you could trust. And then think about all the other people in your life that trust you. They trust you for a reason because you are trustworthy. And so building trust comes from two sides, one within yourself and two from your partner helping you.
You know, it's interesting. I could never, I can't even think about going through someone's phone. I mean, that wouldn't make any sense to me. I would just never do that, whether somebody was involved or not. On the other hand, I think there has to be a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-assuredness from the woman, and hopefully before it gets to any of this, Julia, you would think that two people would sit down and have a conversation about
Yeah.
this. I mean, if I thought my husband was cheating, I would go to him and say, "Look, I have this feeling that there's somebody else in your life other than me. Is that true?" Now, whether he'd tell me the truth or not, that's a whole other story. And luckily, that was something I never had to worry about. And as a matter of fact, our listeners might find this funny. When I got married, I said to my husband, I said, uh, whether you cheat or not is up to you. But remember, it's easier for me to cheat than you because I'm always gone. I'm always with other people. I'm mostly with men because at that point there were very few women in business. And I said, and I'm always out of town. So you have no idea what I'm doing because I was a speaker and I went all over the world. But I said, just know that it's easier for me to cheat than you. So if you want to play that game, that's up to you. But know that if you ever do it, I'm just going to shoot you. That's the end of it. And I never, ever had to worry. But he trusted me, and I was very fortunate. But, some women are not as forthright as I am, but that's how I was, and it was really the truth because even on our honeymoon, I got married Thanksgiving Eve because Thanksgiving was the only day I could take off. And when he went back to work on Monday and his guy said to him, "Well, how's married life?" He said, "I don't know. My wife's gone already." So, I mean, that was kind of our life. And we were married for 45 years before he passed away. So, it just, I guess it depends on the relationship that you have. And, again, you're in the UK, and I don't know if there's more leniency in the UK for people who have affairs than in the US. I don't know. What is the feeling there?
I think, unfortunately, the expectation is that you're more likely to have an affair than not. The incident rate is so high. But, just listening to you talk there, Dr. Gayle, it sounds like you had such a wonderful marriage, but as much the togetherness was there, but you were also your own woman and your own person. And I think this is something that sort of so it gives rise to how you are as a person going to deal with your partner betraying you. Because if you are, say, you have the type of personality that's dependent, then the likelihood is you're going to accept this, you're going to put up with it. And whether you want to or not, your dependency creates that vulnerability. So you decide to stay. But if you're a strong person and independent in yourself, and you also know yourself well enough to think, no way on earth am I going to be checking this, that, and the other because it will just destroy you, then you have that strength already within you. So I think we've got to take into account the personalities that are involved also when it comes to that betrayal, because
Well, I
they're
think you're
very
right. I think
applicable.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah, Julia, that's interesting because yeah, I mean, I was in business. I was a businesswoman when he married me. We used to date at after 9 o'clock at night because I worked till 9 at night. We had I mean, he knew what he was getting, and but he liked it. He liked the fact. He says, and it didn't matter to him if I made more money. He said, then I can just buy more toys. So
Yes.
it was really a wonderful, wonderful relationship. But I would think that a woman who knows that her husband is cheating and goes into it with the knowledge that this could happen, boy, that's a poor way to start off a relationship. So What would you say the impact on men of all of this is? I mean, we've been talking about the woman, but what's the impact on a man?
The impact on a man, what if they get betrayed, or the fact that they've done the betrayal, how do they
I
survive
guess
it?
both. Both.
Both, yeah. Well, from men being betrayed, what I have noticed, and I think which is documented quite a lot, is that men actually find it much harder to trust again than a woman does. And part that may be largely due to the ego side of them. So they don't talk either. They don't talk things out as much, particularly to their friends and things. They're much more likely to hide, oh, I'm okay. Yeah, well, I was going to get rid of her anyway, that sort of thing. So a lot of their emotions become internalized. And because they become internalized, they stick around. And they stick around causing havoc for the next person who gets involved with them. And I've seen it time and time again where men become incredibly possessive, and that causes its own issues, as you can imagine. So that's one side of the man being betrayed. The man doing the betraying, he also is going through emotional issues as well, because, right, you said right at the beginning, he's got feelings. And as much as a lot of people think affairs are just about the sex, they're not. It's the emotions that become involved. And as we know, when emotions become involved, boy, then are you down that road of heartache if you're going to try then and get rid of that person. So it's not easy. And they've got two people then, they're in the middle of all the hurt from the person they've hurt so much, trying to put it right. Then they might have the affair partner who's also given them hell and hurt as well. So this person is in the middle of hurting two people. And that's hard to take on board and hard to accept, because the sensitive person is going to take that on and feel not really good about themselves at all. And they're going to go through their own issues with regards to that. And they need to find somebody to talk to. And if they can't find a friend to confide in, and as I said, you've got to choose your friends wisely. And if they can at all afford to get some personal counseling or seek some professional help, I would seriously recommend that from the person who has been doing the cheating, because they need it as well.
I'm sure they do. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, Julia, so I want to have people know where they can get a hold of the copy of the book and how they can contact you and so forth.
Oh, thank you. Well, the book is called The MANscript, and you can get that on Amazon.com. There's also another book that goes with it called My Freedom Diary and Journal, and that will literally take you on a day-to-day, step-by-step recovery of any emotional pain. It doesn't have to be cheating. So it can even help you actually through this coronavirus now. If you're feeling vulnerable, it will take you on a day-to-day how you will survive that and how to get through it. And then we have our website, which is called Jules and Jackie, spelled JACQUI, julesandjackie.com. And if you contact us there, we will always reply, because we're here to help.
So if you want to contact Julia or Jackie, it's Jules, Jules,
Yes.
And, Jackie, JACQUI.com. And you can find the book, The MANscript, at Amazon. And I don't know if you're offering any kind of gift to our listeners at all or not, but if you'd like to offer one, we'd love to have it. It's up to you.
Yes, I am more than happy as a qualified counsellor to give a 30-minute free session to anybody who contacts me, and we can do it via Skype.
Fantastic. And guys, Julia mentioned a very important thing. If you're going through this coronavirus, no matter where you are in this world, because we reach I think we're in 148 countries. So if you're hearing this and you really feel you would need somebody to talk to, contact Julia, because she'll be able to help you with that. And that's a key ingredient. And for those of you who are listening who are over 50, I want to let you know that I've started a virtual SOB club, Spunky Old Broad. So if you go to facebook.com /group grooves/virtual SOB club. You'll find us, and I'd love to have you. I'm on there every day talking to you, giving you hints. Once we get to a big nucleus, we'll be doing other things with the club. So I look forward to it. And Julia, this has been extraordinary. I think women need to take a look at what their marriages are like. And I don't think anybody goes into a marriage with the idea that I'm not going to be faithful or I'm going to cheat. But, you know, we have to be aware of the realities of the world today. So here is a place for you, and you've got a workbook to go along with it. And I think it's a marvelous, marvelous opportunity. So coming to us all the way from the UK is Julia Keys, and thank you so much for being with us, Julia. We really appreciate it and hope you'll do extremely well, you and Jackie, with the book.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gayle, and thoughts with everybody at this really challenging time.
You've had the opportunity to get to know me over the last few years, and I'd like to get to know you as well. One of the things I'm offering is training for the media. I have a wonderful program that will get you ready for any radio or TV interview you might be offered. Many of you are doing wonderful things, but no one knows about them. Others of you are successful and wonder, what's next? Whether you're in a business or have a special cause or a specific event you're promoting, media can help, and I can help you master your message so you can master the media. If this sounds interesting to you, email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com with media training in the subject line. I promise I will be in touch. Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.